Hey, all you holistic hipsters out there, it's that time. So grab your chalice of choice and sit back and sip along with us. We would love to welcome you to the Tea Podcast, where we spill the tea on all things holistic in the pet grooming industry. Let me introduce you to our hostesses with the mostesses.
She is the socialite of skin and coat care, Ms. Michelle Knowles.
And the queen bee of all things oily, Ms. Melissa Conti-Diener. Brought to you by TheOilyGroomer.com. Are you searching for a new and more mindful way of grooming? Interested in understanding how to grow your grooming business with a more holistic and organic approach? Please contact Melissa Conti-Diener at TheOilyGroomer.com so that you can set up a meeting and bring balance and prosperity to your life. And AllThingsPaw.com. Intermediate and advanced courses in pet esthetician work, fear recovery, animal handling, and more. Get your learn on with All Things Paw. And by PositiveEd.com. Attend from anywhere in the world. Always pay the lowest price. 6 to 10 hours of innovative content and more. Education for every learning lifestyle. Never miss the class you need, and transcripts are provided for recordings. Say hello to Pet Professional Education Unleashed with PositiveEd.com.
Now, let's get this tea party started.
Alrighty then. Here we are again. It is tea time.
Yeah, on this Memorial Day. It's
How
tea
are
time.
you doing, ma'am?
Labor Day. It's not Memorial.
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
We remember that it's Labor Day.
Exactly. Which is an accomplishment for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Waking up. We woke up again.
Hey, there's somebody else in our box.
Who's in our box? It's Kate Klasen.
Who let the riffraff in? Do your tea turn.
What I want to know is what's in your cup, Melissa?
Oh, what's in my cup? I got a new cup because, again, we live on the seventh circle of the sun, and it's a bazillion degrees. So I got a new cool cup. Isn't it pretty?
Oh, it's very tropically.
Yes, makes me feel very tropically. And I actually have the actual company tea bag because I love this company. Since I'm not a loose blender as much as you are, Michelle, I prefer the quick and easy route. So these are Puka. This is Refresh, and it's a mixture of organic peppermint, organic fennel, and organic rose, and it's called Refresh. So
I like that. Refresh.
And they come in all different blends. And this is one of my favorites, and I love this cold. It's so nice, and of course, sweetened with a little of my raw honey. And this is Chuck, and he agrees.
Hi, Chuck.
That's a tasty treat. What's in your cup, Michelle?
I have today, this is from a collection of apothecary mugs, tea mugs, if you will. It says, Sensen Throat Ease Breath Perfume for 5 cents.
Lovely. So very vintage looking.
Yes, yes. I've only got 2 of them from this collection because the other ones are like cigars and chew and other stuff. But inside, I'm doing a nutritive. It's dandelion, burdock, and hawthorn for heart health.
Nice.
So that's what I'm sipping on today.
So our esteemed guest, Ms. Kate Klasen, what is in your cup?
I'm like the one of these things doesn't belong box because I've got coffee, just black coffee.
But what does your mug say? Do it correctly, ma'am.
Yeah, what's your mug?
So my mug says, "You don't get to tell me what to do because you're not my dog."
Oh, I love that. I
That
love it.
is-
So appropriate for tea time.
Yeah.
This was a gift from Tiny Tim.
Oh. Don't
And
you
inside,
love when your
do you
when
have
your
do you have
pets
bean
shop
tea?
for you?
No, inside is just coffee.
Bean
Just
tea, exactly.
Bean tea. Yes.
Yes,
I didn't
bean
even think
tea.
about it that way. I like that thought process.
And our
Yeah.
bishop and Tiny there being on duty with you today, or are you solo without the boys?
So I've got Bishop, but I don't have Tiny. Tiny
Um,
has had a lot of attitude issues lately, and so I didn't want him making too much noise.
okay.
So I bet you guys are wondering, what's the topic today?
Yeah.
Bam!
I love it.
Like it.
All right, Emergen-Tea 911, because our guest has her whole business based around emergency help. Tell us a little bit about it.
All right. So for those of you that don't know me out there, I'm a former first responder. That was my career for about 20 years. Prior to that, I grew up in a first responder household. So it's just something that has been part of my life. I decided to retire from that and started working as a pet professional. And during that time period, my dog started choking. And it was in that moment that luckily what I did, it helped get that object out, and she's still with us, but it made me feel helpless. And I thought that's just not cool. So I went and I learned what to do in case of an emergency and saw how there's such a lack of that in the pet side of things, that now that's my new mission, my new passion. So it's really fun for me because it's not necessarily work. It's bringing my two passions together. And I think it's got a lot of purpose behind it, because we don't realize how powerful we really are when it comes to being our first responder for our pet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that you're fully capable as a pet owner of providing lots of emergency type assistance to your dog until you can get to the veterinarian. It's not just about CPR, is it?
No. And that's what I always say, like CPR, people always think like, when I say emergency, CPR, first aid. But I always say that that's just a small piece of the puzzle, right? So there's a whole pie to be had out there. And so it's not just the CPR. It is doing the first aid. It is what to do if they're choking. It is emergency preparedness in general. I think we get so used to having 911 and a whole network on the human side of things that we forget that they don't have a network on the pet side of things. Mm-hmm. You are the network. So if you're the network, how are you preparing for that? Because when it comes time that's going to happen, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit as far as what the statistics are telling us, that it's going to happen at some point, then what are you going to do about that? Mm-hmm. Because in that moment, that's not the time to learn.
Right.
And it's not just about big emergencies. It doesn't have to be some life-threatening thing. It could be something like last week, one of my dogs actually dug up an anthill.
Wow.
Right. And so she was covered in ant bites and got some swelling, some inflammation going on, as well as some like a light allergy to the fact that they bit the heck out of her out there because she was being silly and decided to dig in an anthill she found. Well, with all this rain, they're out and about now that it's dried up a little, and so that was something that I thought this will be a good topic when we talk with you, Kate. Because sometimes your pets get into things, and it's not necessarily a cardiac event, that your dog's having a heart attack or choking, on something, and but they, may ingest something or step on something, and now they're limping, and so it runs a gamut from really big emergencies all the way down to minor things that you can take care of yourself if you have this training.
Well, and I think one of the stats that was brought to my attention that really makes you start thinking, the American Animal Hospital Association, they came out and they published saying that 1 in 4 dogs could have a dramatic better outcome if only one first aid technique was applied prior to arriving at the veterinarian.
Right.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, 1 out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yes, it is CPR, it is first aid, but it is so much more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think if you take the time and get a little bit of education on what you can do in the interim until you're driving to the vet, or if it even is that, you have the power now to discern whether or not you should panic and run to the vet and this, that, and the other. Sometimes it's something you can just do at home. If they've got a thorn stuck in their foot, you can irrigate it, you can wash it, you can apply the salve, you can, bandage it, and all those things are included. So, I mean, if there is a way to bandage a foot so that bandage doesn't fall off, there's ways to do that. They have actual ways to do that. And then there's different methods for depending on what part of the body it is. So.
Right.
And Kate, you also do not just for the pet owner, but also you do emergency and preparedness also for the grooming salons as well, or even if you're mobile, when you have an emergency. So you also work with groomers in that sense as well. And for those that don't know, you're also a groomer. So can you elaborate a little bit on that part of your business of how help is also for people? It's not just for dogs and cats and the pet parent to know about their pet, but it's also for humans in an emergency situation.
Yeah. So when I retired from the emergency world, I worked at a vet office, worked as a vet assistant, but then I also worked under a groomer and learned how to groom. I started out as mobile, and then I opened my own salon. So I have the experience on the mobile side, and I have the experience on the salon side. So coming into it as a former first responder, my perspective on things is going to be just a little bit different, just because my background and my training is different. So when I walk into certain situations, I have a completely different viewpoint, which is why I like to target the groomers. I've seen a lot of things as I've gone across different states and trained in different facilities. I've seen facilities that have absolutely no supplies on hand at all. I've seen facilities that have supplies on hand at different stations. And I think there's a lot of times where they have the first aid kit, but they don't necessarily go through the first aid kit. And now the emergency happens and you open it up and it's like 95% Band-Aids. So for me, as I come in and I do the training with the salons, I like to do it a little bit differently because I see where there's that lack. So it's not just coming in and going, okay, let's learn CPR 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And, this is what you're going to do. And then this is what you're going to do, because life isn't ABCD. It's one thing to teach a textbook style, and it's another thing to actually teach reality. And the reality is, when the emergency happens, there is nothing but gray area. It's not black and white. So what you taught or what you may have learned in a class, and you think, okay, well, I'm ready to go. Well, I'm putting you to that test because I want you to know what it's going to be like when the go is on. And the other aspect of that is, I encourage salons to keep training. So as a first responder, right, I had to go through an academy. I had to go through a probationary period. I practiced every day on the street. And then on top of that, we still trained on top of that. So it's a constant training. You don't just take a 30-minute online class or a 30-minute class or whatever class it is that you decide to take and think that just because you got a certificate of completion at the end of it, that you're ready to go. And so this is where I come in and I will put you through a scenario. I have weighted dogs because I don't think people realize, especially like mobile groomers or salon groomers that work on their own, when that dog is not conscious to help you out, what does it feel like?
I have to say, I felt those weighted dogs that Kate has. What a game changer, because I had no idea. What were they, like 30 pounds?
Yeah.
Just I was just like, oh my gosh, this feels like 100 pounds. I mean, it was so heavy. I could not believe how heavy that was. And the thing is that it's pliable, you know what I mean? So it would move like an unconscious animal, just kind of be floppy and heavy and not easy to maneuver.
For those of you who do, for those of you who also do anesthetized grooming, you know exactly what that's like as well, because you don't have any tension in the skin at all.
Yes.
It's all loose. So you have to be very careful about moving your clipper around that flesh. Because there's no muscle tension. You've got to spread everything apart. You've got to hold it, to provide the tension. It's the same thing. Yeah. When you're unconscious, you don't realize how floppy and heavy you get.
No. So then imagine that dog goes down in the tub, right? And you think that you're going to take that dog and pick it up and put it on the floor to start performing emergency aid to it, not realizing that I can't pick this dog up now.
Right.
So it is putting you through that scenario and getting the realization of what this may actually look like, because it serves a couple of different purposes. I always tell people, like, I'm not here to just try and be a jerk and be like, oh, this is the emergency. But I do it because I want you to have a more realistic feel for it. And then on top of that, too, a lot of people have never had an emergency happen. They've never really had that type of experience happen in their lifetime. If we go through it with a scenario, then that initial shock and I don't know how I'm going to be in that situation, we get that out of your system. Right. So now the next time that it happens, now you have a little bit of muscle memory. Your body is going to react differently than that very first time. So I've had people in their scenarios just literally like freeze up. And then we put them through it again. And guess what? They were able to work through that adrenaline. They were able to work through that fight or flight. And so this is where I feel strongly, as far as, salons and pet professionals, to actually put you through a scenario versus, hey, let's just learn this information online and be done with it. So there's a lot of different avenues and aspects to the training instead of just, textbook CPR.
I think a lot of us are unaware that when you learn a new skill, you actually make new pathways in your brain to learn that skill. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So even if you take a class, like Kate was saying, or read a book or see a video, it really isn't the same as participating in something like that, where you have a faux emergency, but you have to go through the motions. You're actually helping your brain create that pathway to the learning so that memory is there when you need it. It has something to fall back on.
And then it becomes muscle memory. The more you practice that, the more that you go through and you're like, okay, and you put together a plan that you have for whether you're, in a mobile or whether you're in a house call, doesn't really matter. Talk about how important that is, Kate, to actually have a emergency preparedness plan.
It's important on a lot of aspects of it. So not just, as far as at home, but at work too. And I don't think a lot of businesses realize that OSHA makes it a requirement. They're technically supposed to have a plan, and they're supposed to talk about that with their employees as well. But let's just throw out a hypothetical. Okay. Hypothetical is I'm in a salon setting and I've got 3 other groomers that are in my shop with me. One of the groomers is in the process of grooming a dog and has a cardiac event and goes down. What are you going to do? Everybody is always like, call 911. I get that. Okay. And it's kind of ironic that 911 are called the first responders when people don't realize that the victims and you are the first responders. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
and every minute that you're not doing chest
Yes.
compressions is minutes of life lost.
exactly. And on average, okay, sometimes it's a little bit longer, but on average, response time is about 7 minutes. So let's just sit here in silence now for 7 minutes and see how much time or how that feels. So imagine this person is being down. Now, in the reality with CPR is what we're trying to do is just oxygenate all the organs that need oxygen and glucose to keep functioning. So we are just stabilizing that patient until they are able to get the help that they need. So if we're not doing that and it's just sitting there, everything starts to die. So now I'm just sitting there for 7 minutes. Well, your body is starting to shut down. Biological processes that are happening. So our chances of survival decrease 1 minute at a time. So it's just as important to learn the human side as it is on the pet side. The thing is with the pets, they have even less time than we do. So when their body starts breaking down, and minutes are even more precious when it comes to our dog versus our humans. So now I just had this coworker go down, and we've never talked about a plan. We don't know what's going on. It has to take that minute now to recognize this is an emergency. Now it takes another minute to recognize, what am I supposed to do? Then on top of that, there is going to be chaos. So what do we do with that dog? Where do we place that dog? Who's going to be calling 911? Who knows CPR to be able to initiate the emergency to begin with and not have to be on the phone? The other thing I do in my classes too is go over a 911 call, since I used to be a 911 dispatcher, because a lot of people have never had to call 911 before. So you don't realize the questions that the dispatcher has to ask you. And I hear people all the time are like, just get them over here, just get them out. Okay, well, as a dispatcher, they didn't realize how the system worked. So as I'm asking them questions, the information's going into the computer system. The responders are already being sent out there, but I still have to keep you on the phone and ask you questions. So what kind of questions are you going to have to know? And oddly enough, I've had people that work in my shop and they still don't know the address of where they're at. And that's another thing. We got to know our location. So it's all these little things that if you've never really had to go through it before, know how the system works, you're not going to have the same perspective as somebody that used to have to do this for a living. So this is where I like to bring that reality into my training.
Well, I think that you give it that unique perspective, because how many people were first responder, were a dispatcher, or a groomer, are working with other first responder organizations. So not just local police force, but also fire department, also, other outreaches. So you really bring a very unique perspective to this whole umbrella of explain what HELP is. That's the name of your business. And it's an acronym. So it's H period, E period, L period, P period. And each of those letters are from a much bigger word, correct?
Yeah. So I'm going to take a sip of my coffee so I can spill it all out. It's like word.
Let me see if I can get her up on the screen big. No, that's not it.
I know. We keep playing with that format. I couldn't get
it. As long as I don't have to read anything, because otherwise they'll be looking at my nose so I can look through my bifocals.
I think it's this.
Let's see. Michelle loves all the techie stuff. If we lose you, we'll be right back.
That's bigger.
Yeah, I just want to be able to see your sign and your logo in the background.
Yeah. So
tell us about it.
So human and animal emergency lifeline preparedness. And I thought that just kind of basically covers everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So help just kind of broadens the whole aspect of what I'm trying to train. And this is where I really, really want pet professionals to not just train on the animal side of things, but to also know the human side of things is just as important, and to really incorporate all of the emergency training and get you prepared. So not only do I work with HELP, but I also work with, Melissa, like you said, the nonprofit, where I'm still working with the first responders. There's the response side of the nonprofit, where we go out and work with the fire departments and crisis response teams if there's animal involved in a house fire or whatever emergency situation. So we go and we help the animals there. And then there's the division that I'm heading up, and that is the peer support division with the first responders. So there's a couple of different aspects with HELP, because we're working with both sides. I'd really like to educate the pet professionals and really, so, okay, here's a fun fact, right? I should make this a quiz, but I won't. So fun fact is, I don't think a lot of people even realize that human CPR was developed in 1960. Human CPR in general has only been around for about 63 years. And when the first AED came out, it was like 200 pounds and it was on a wheelie cart, right?
Right.
So look how much in a very short period of time has changed. And this is why over the years, like when I went through EMT school, I had a practice on dummy Annie, and it was 15 compressions to 2 breaths, right? But over time, we have had studies and outside of hospital statistics come in, and we see what's working and what's not working. Well, we're fresh in the animal side of things, because for a long time, everybody was like, it's not even worth your time because it's futile, right? It's not even worth it. Well, now Recover collected statistics outside of the hospital setting on the animal side of things as well. And they came out with their report saying that it's not futile, that it is worth your time and effort to do it, right? So we are saving our animals' lives if we know what to do. And that's key. So as pet professionals, when we are not required to have this under our belt, if we have a business that takes care of people's pets, right? We're not at that point yet. Now's the time to really get out there and start spreading the word that it's not futile, that it does save lives, and that really you're the first responder in order to be able to do that. So you take these dogs under your wing every single day. Now, what are you going to do if something were to happen?
Right.
And I'm hoping that, it's not going to take 60 years to develop to the point that the human side has, that it's going to take just a couple of years when people are going to know that this information is available to them.
I think that we, as a society, as dog and pet owners and lovers, I think more and more the pet owners that are coming up today are really getting into the care of their pets. So they are interested in safety. They are interested in nutrition. They are interested in what goop goes on their dog when it gets groomed. So, I mean, a lot of things are like that. Fun fact, I just read the other day that the face of the CPR dummy, Annie, was actually taken from a woman who was pulled out of the Thames 200 years ago. So that face is an absolute real woman that got pulled out, and they made a plaster of her face, and now she is the face of all of those CPR dummies, except the male ones. I think there's male ones too now. But yeah, isn't that weird?
Again with the obscure facts. I love it.
I know. I have to go look that up now, Michelle. Thank you.
So for 200 years, this woman's face has actually been an essential help to saving so many people's lives.
Yeah. That is such a cool anecdotal thing, and Michelle is full of them. I just sent her something the other day. I was like, hey, did you know this? And she was like, actually I did. And I was like, why am I not surprised?
And then I sent one back, and she was like,
which is why, Michelle, I am absolutely ecstatically excited that the herbal apothecary, right? Did I say that right?
The Herbal Paw Apothecary.
Yes. That.
Yeah.
Yes, because otherwise I'll screw it up again, right? That we are coming together to be able to offer not just, emergency supplies, but to be able to offer the herbal side of things as well. And this is a project that I have wanted to do for such a long time, because animals respond really well to natural remedies, and
They do, and they don't have a lot of side effects. They work really well, and they're safe. They're safe to be ingested. They're safe to be put topically. So I think that's what I want to know is, do you have one of your first aid kits handy?
Yes, I do.
Can you walk us through what's in it?
Oh my God. How much time is this?
We have plenty of time.
This is the advanced kit, so it could be a little bit longer. I'll just try and kind of like do a broad overview, but
I wish we could get hers big.
I actually have the picture. Give me 1 second and I can pull it up. Let's see here. Hang on. Share screen. I'm trying here. There it is. So here's the actual. Can you guys see it?
Not yet. Hold on. Oh, yep. There it is.
Oh,
You got it? So
nice.
That is what the kit looks like.
Where did you get that picture?
Right off of your Facebook, girl. Right off of your Facebook.
Dang, I took a professional picture.
Yes, you did. So there is the actual picture, and I'm going to stop sharing. Hang on. And okay, now, you can go through. Go ahead and show what actually comes in that little bag.
Yeah. So what I did was I put together a kit that really ultimately, if this is the only kit that you have on hand, that it's going to be something that's going to be beneficial if it's a human emergency or an animal emergency, right? So I see a lot of kits that are out there and it's either one or the other. And I get that, just to have extra supplies on hand for your animal versus both. But I wanted something that you can go hiking, or if you're a mobile groomer, or you're, a smaller salon, that you don't necessarily need, 3 different things. So in the kit here in the front pocket, we have our emergency shock blanket. And then there's a couple of pouches of emergency water. The water is actually good for 5 years, so you won't have to replace that for a while. And then we open it up, and it's a nice little carrying case, and it's got a hook up here, so if you wanted to hang it from somewhere, you can do that as well. It's got gloves in it. It's got all your ointments and stuff in here. So it does have a triple antibiotic ointment, and I know some people have issues with that because of cats. So cats, there can be an allergic reaction to cats. I have talked to different veterinarians about it. Most of them say that they have seen the allergic reaction if it gets into the eye of the cat. They haven't really seen anything topically. So use that with caution when it comes to cats, but there are other options that are in the kit for cats as well. But if this is going to be for human and animal emergency, then I wanted to go ahead and keep that in there. So we have that. It also comes with packs of honey. So if there were to be a diabetic reaction, you've got sugar on hand, or if there is a hypoglycemic reaction, then you've got sugar on hand for that as well. So I've got honey in there. I've got, for the human side, there's a little one-way valve CPR mask. So you can't say that you didn't have any protection because you've got your mask here. It's got a Dr. Pen light. So if you needed to look inside the throat for anything, it's, choking incident, you've got that. It has medical tape that we go over in class as far as like how to tape up a tail and that type of thing. if you got your bandage scissors, you've got your pair of pliers if needed. It has tongue depressors. Tongue depressors for on the animal side of things can be used as splints if needed. It's got the information in the front pocket. So the information is kind of an overall pet first aid information, but it also has your information for poison control. It's got a slip lead. The slip lead I like because you can use that as an emergency muzzle as well. It has your digital thermometer and then a couple of packs of lube. So if it's an animal emergency, once you use that digital thermometer, I would mark it that you use that as the animal thermometer.
Good idea.
Just throwing it out there. It's got a collapsible bowl. So if you do need to provide water to your animal, you've got that on hand.
Or if you use the wrong thermometer and then realize
just make sure you go and you pull out the alcohol wipes and wipe that down, right? Sorry. And then I've got an actual stamp splint. So you can use that on human limbs. Yeah. And then you can also use it on your animals as well. And this you can cut. So if you needed to cut it smaller, you have an actual splint to be able to do that. You've got ace bandage roll for your pressure dressings. You've got a roll of vet wrap, make life easier when it comes to our animals, but it's good for you too. Here is another alternative to like a triplet antibiotic ointment. This is a silver biotic. So this is good for dogs and or cats.
I love that it's both feline and canine friendly as well as human.
Yeah.
So many pet kits out there are specifically just for dogs.
Or they're Q-tip heavy for some weird reason.
Yeah.
Like they have some obscure weird thing that, these are people, just put a bunch of them in there and bulk it up instead of giving you what you need in an emergency.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, that's why I tell people, like, open up your kit, figure out what you have, because, if I have a big laceration and I actually need gauze and pressure dressings and hemostatic agents and ace bandage or whatever the case may be, and I open it up and it's all band-aids. Right. Well, now what are we going to do?
Right.
Put those together and try and tape something together with that. So know what's in your first aid kit. This also comes with a smaller bottle of hydrogen peroxide. So you have
no one use that on deep wounds. It's for rashes and scrapes and abrasions only.
And that the hydrogen peroxide don't use with cats. Cats and hydrogen peroxide do not get along. So that is for dog or people only. I included a needleless syringe. So if you do have to administer or wash something out, you
irrigate it.
Gauze rolls, got a couple of gauze rolls in here.
My gosh, it's Mary Poppins' first aid bag. Like, it looks she's pulling stuff out of there. Holy moly, it doesn't look that big.
Move over, Mary Poppins.
Right? Yeah, holy cow, that thing is packed full of like necessary items. You haven't taken one thing out of that I've gone, you'll never use that.
Right,
no,
exactly. All those are legitimate items. Yeah.
Yes. I'm like,
I tried. I really did try.
Well, you did good, girl.
Here is
there's more.
And there's more. So you do have your gauze pads and your gauze, right? But this also comes with hemostatic gauze as well. So hemostatic gauze being like your clotted gauze. So if something were to impaled object or something along those lines, and you have a heavy bleed, this is the hemostatic gauze to be able to pack that wound and be able to stop that bleeding a little bit faster.
If you are impaled or your dog is impaled, do not remove
No.
the object.
The object,
You want to
yes.
keep that intact because it's actually cutting off circulation in that area. Once you remove it, it will bleed and the animal will bleed out.
Right.
So it's, if you get impaled with something, it's best to keep that in, and then the doctors can remove that at the emergency room because they have all the equipment there to stop the bleeding.
Yeah. So that is, I think
tell
that is
us-
the end of the bag.
Oh, well, that's what I was going to say. So tell us, how do they get this bag? Which I can't imagine your shop should have one. If you're mobile, you should have one in your mobile van. If you're house call, that should be attached to your carrying case of all your grooming goodies.
Mm-hmm.
Right, your caddy. And
Pet
if
sitters.
you're in a brick and mortar, you know, then you definitely should have more than, especially if you're a large salon, you should have a couple of those in some strategic places.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you work in a vet's office, you're in a separate area and you should have those things put together like that for you. So
Excellent point, Melissa. Excellent
Yeah.
point. Yes. It should be in your area. Yes.
It should, right. It should be within reach or close by so that you can get things going while you're working your plan. So where do we get it, Kate? How do we get it? And how much is it?
So the advanced kit is $76.99, but it's free shipping.
Mhm.
And you can get it at my website, which is www.helpllp.com. And on my website as well, there is an option if you wanted to. You can download the 10 free tips for emergency preparedness.
Nice. Now, where can they find the classes to take so that they are prepared to use that emergency kit should it come necessary?
Everything is on my website at this point.
Okay.
I still have to update the in-person classes because I am traveling a lot this month. So I'm going to be teaching in different states. So I don't have anything as of right now, but once October hits, I'm going to be back up and running. So, and that's the other aspect of it too. If it's something that, you know, I'm willing to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a salon out there and you want to do some sort of training, an emergency preparedness training, go through a scenario, whatever the case may be, feel free to contact me for that as well, because I do travel for that. So everything right now is on my website. If for any reason you want to call me and speak to me directly and set something up that way, you can reach me at 602-790-3651.
Now,
I love it.
this is different. This is your first aid kit from Help. This is very different than your work with the Fido bags and the Fetch Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So while I'm going to have you elaborate on that, but I'm going to pull up, if you're okay with it, I'm going to pull up with just a couple of pictures so they could see also your work partners that help you with some of that stuff. And let me just do a share screen here really quick.
How do you share the screen on this thing?
Down at the bottom.
Oh, present.
Yes, ma'am. There we go. So here is one of Kate's partners here. This is Bishop with some of the Fido bags.
This is my partner in crime.
Yeah.
him and the other. So yes, this is Bishop, and Bishop is my co-teacher, my co-instructor, but we also do therapy with the first responders as well. The Fido bags is through the Fetch Foundation, and the Fido bags are donations that are given to the fire departments. So when the fire departments have an animal on scene, The Fido bags provide oxygen masks. They provide other materials that are in their gloves. They provide instruction videos. They provide a couple of different things for the fire departments to be able to help those animals, especially with like smoke inhalation. And so the Fetch Foundation, their goal is to be able to get every single bag, or I shouldn't say every single bag, every single department provided with a bag.
Across the whole nation, and then she's going to work on the whole world. That's how Marie Peck is.
There's nothing wrong with having big goals. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Speaking of big goals, here is a photo, and you can just kind of share a little bit about what these boys are doing. They're working. Can you see that?
Yes. So that is one of our visits. And I work with Companion Pets in Crisis. That's the other nonprofit. And that is the therapy division that I've headed up. And that is us going in and working with the peer support groups. So we work with the fire departments, the police departments. This was at the medical examiner's office. And we go and do therapy visits with the responders as well. So it is educating and providing peer support on the first responder side, and then also educating and providing education to pet professionals and the people, pet owners side of things. So it all really, we all work together and network together to hopefully, in my mind, right, when we're talking about big goals, to provide some sort of emergency network for our animals, because they don't have one. They don't have anything at this point. It's you guys. And so I hear, well, I'll just take them to the emergency vet, but we're coming into a day and age where that's not as easy either. So we have to really know what to do to be able to stabilize the animal, whether that be the first responders are doing it or whether that be our owners and pet professionals are doing it. We are trying to educate everybody.
So not only do you co-teach with Bishop, so when you're teaching first aid, CPR, he's a medium to large size dog. He is an absolutely gorgeous Dalmatian, and amazing. I'm always amazed when you show me the stuff that he has, and he is a rescue. So he came to you as a semi-adult, and so while he is the traditional service dog, you also work with another service dog, and I'll share screen again here, and you can give a little bit of attention to this guy who's usually fired, but what could you tell us about this small stature but big attitude? Because I know I've seen you do the CPR stuff with him.
Yes, you know what? Both of these guys are my heart dogs. Tiny is no introduction needed for Tiny. If anybody out there has seen me at events, has taken my class, then you have met Tiny and know that he needs no introduction. Tiny, I love Tiny because, number one, he's now the senior co-instructor. So he's teaching Bishop what to do. But Tiny also, Bishop is a little bit different. I can't explain it, but Tiny brings so much joy to people. And so it's so easy to be able to attract people around and teach them the CPR stuff when Tiny's there. He just has a aura about him and a personality about him that he just brings so much fun to the class or anywhere that I bring him, really.
And you actually, he actually assists you in teaching your classes. It's not that he's just there to look cute.
No, they both do. So Tiny I use for small dog CPR demonstration.
Right.
and other small dog aspects of it, because I'll use him, like I'll pass him around so people can feel pulses, because you got to feel them on the little ones as well as the big ones. Bishop, he's learning. We're in the learning process, but I do use him as well because, you know, the technique that I'm going to use for Bishop for CPR is going to be different than Tiny. Different things too, as far as choking goes and how to form tight seals around the muzzle. Bishop is very good for practicing the emergency muzzle on. So bringing both of them to class is able to give you more of a hands-on experience versus, you know, just having stuffed animals or mannequins.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's pretty important, that you actually, not only do you bring this unique perspective, but you also you work with two different size dogs, two different complete personality type, you know? And so for somebody like me, I only work on small breeds. So that, to me, how to get a seal on that little tiny face and a squishy face at that, you know, bracephalic face is even more interesting to try and make a good tight seal. So I just love the fact that they get to go with you and you travel with them as well.
Yeah. Tiny's not coming with me this next trip, but Bishop is.
Right.
So we will be teaching emergency preparedness up in Idaho, and Bishop will be there for that.
So give them the website one more time.
I posted it in the comments.
Did you put it up? Okay. Good deal.
And did you get that picture to share?
What picture?
I sent you one in Messenger.
Oh, I have to look. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, see if I pull that up.
Yeah, I can't get it to share because.
I got it up. So let's see. I should be able to send. What is it, Michelle? Tell everybody while I'm doing this. Share.
Hopefully she has the right one, not me, you know, in Vegas. But
yeah, it is.
That would be terrible. So this is the small herbal kit from the Herbal Paw Apothecary that we're teaming up with Help to provide an herbal solution for the people who don't want to use the chemicals that are normally in first aid kits. So there is irrigation, a sodium chloride irrigation that you put an herbal solution into for antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and then you clean it with. Then we have Hear Me Out for anybody who has an ear issue. Shocked, which is cayenne pepper in solution, which will bring a dog out of shock. So one squirt on the inside cheek. Ouch is an oil base.
Bring me around.
Cayenne
pepper.
Yeah. And then Ouch is a combination of herbs who, once you get the wound irrigated and cleaned, that would be used in lieu of the triple ointment, if you will. It's just as good, just as wonderful, but it's all herbal. And then, of course, Flushed is the solution that you put inside your sodium chloride irrigation, and that will actually be an antibacterial flush for them.
And I know we're working on some other things too, right?
We are working on some other things as well. So, but
I really have to say, Michelle, like I have used the Ouch just as it is grooming. Like I've had some warts that have opened up and that type of thing. It is fantastic. It is an absolute fantastic concoction that you've got there. So I'm really, really excited to be putting this kit together with you.
Yeah, we're also working on an herbal way to stop bleeding with yarrow. She also asked me to work on a formulation to ease nausea or to calm a tummy because everybody's all upset. And then we're also working on a spray or a rinse in case of fire and they're covered in ash or whatever. You want to get that cleaned off of them as soon as possible. We don't want just water on it because that makes lye. So
Yeah.
We don't really want to make a caustic soup on them. So we want something that actually helps clean it off. So those are the things that are in the works.
Yeah.
Nice.
So excited.
I just love the fact that you guys are two of my closest and most cherished friends, and that you're actually working together in this capacity. Just brings me so much joy. I'm so excited for you both to be able to just bring these products and get this information out there and just do all of this. It is.
I think it's interesting that I know Marie Peck from another life.
Yes, and I know that you knew her.
And if you go to my YouTube, my Michelle Knowles YouTube channel or whatever, you'll actually find a video of the Fetch bag. I made like a commercial for the Fetch bag.
I had no idea. And then somebody sent that to me and I was like, what?
Yeah, and it's really rough because it's when I was first starting to learn how to make those videos. But I thought it was pretty interesting that it's just come full circle, because I've always been a proponent of emergency and making sure that you're prepared. So I mean, it just fits. It just fits, and I'm so proud of Kate for putting all her stuff together. It really brings a cohesive alternative to emergency preparedness. Because before, like she was saying, everybody was like, okay, we need a human bag, we need a bird bag, we need a dog bag. We don't really. Most of us use all the same stuff, and we just have to modify it for each body system. So I'm really glad that you've brought all that together in one great bag, an advanced kit. Now, you say that's the advanced kit. Do you have a non-advanced kit? Do you have a basic kit as well?
Yeah, I was kind of going back and forth with that, because I really just feel like just do a one and done. But I also know that people want different tiers as well. So there is a non-advanced kit. It's called my basic kit. And it doesn't have things like it doesn't have the splint in there. It doesn't have the vet wrap in there. It doesn't have the needleless syringe. It's a very basic kit. It's still a good kit, but there's a lot of stuff that I've personally added into the advanced kit to make it more of a bang for your buck.
And I have to say, once you've been in first responder like Kate has, everything she puts in that kit, she does it for a reason.
Yeah.
Because she's seen it all, and she's like, you know what, this kit's going to get you through until you can get to the more advanced people who can help you with whatever's going on. So I'm really comfortable with the kit that she's put together, simply because I know that each item was thoughtfully curated to put in this bag.
Well, thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and on top of the fact that it comes with the thought processes of someone who has worked as a dispatcher, even.
Exactly.
Because they're the one on the phone trying to ascertain what injury or what the issue is. So when Kate's eyes are on these things and she's packing them into this bag, she's not only thinking from just one viewpoint. So
no, I mean, and that's where, I was a licensed EMT. Then I became a 911 dispatcher. Then I became a patrol officer. So as far as really having a pretty good perspective on how the system actually works, I've pretty much worked in most of the departments, and then still working with the responders now. So to see when we go into the 911 dispatch centers now, and to see how they're operating and to see the technology. Technology is still not 100%. So I think people think like, oh, well, they're just going to be able to ping where I'm at. Well, it's not there yet, right? They still get a little bit of a radius, but it's not there yet. And it's stuff like that people don't know. So to be able to have both sides of the radio and be able to explain that, and so you have a better understanding how your actual system works. Yeah, it's a different perspective than some of the others out there.
Well, all right. Does anybody have anything to follow up? I know you can get to Kate by going to www.help.com. So that is her website. That's how you get in touch with her and get in touch with getting one of these fantastic bags to get in your house and at your salon.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me on.
It was great.
Welcome. We love you.
Yes. So easy. Oh, and it's
that time again, and we're going to miss you until next time. Now, remember that we won't have a podcast this Thursday because every time we do the Monday Live, we'll see you next week with a recording on Thursday. And we love you, and may your next sip be as delicious as your last.